I can eat some candy. Nigga, this shit ain't healthy. Nigga, hold your text on.
We got Disturban, man. On this good Wednesday. Probably already pre-recorded, but I ain't gonna get. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, they go ahead and get the video started, man.
This case takes place in Stockholm, Sweden on the 2nd of August 2018. Erik Torell was raised in the suburb of Vasatan in Sweden. He was described as a kind and gentle man who loved his family. Erik also had Down syndrome, a chromosomal condition that impacts physical and intellectual development. At 20 years old, Erik had the developmental age of a 3-year-old. He couldn't speak due to an additional diagnosis of autism, and the only word he could say was mum. His mother would later comment, Erik had no understanding of danger. His starting point was that everyone was kind. Because of his condition.
Yeah, my little brother, he got autism. He non-verbal. But he can talk though, but he just can't, you know what I'm saying, hold a conversation. Like he can talk good as fuck. And when he talk, it's surprised the fuck out you because he rarely talk.
Erik spent his time at home under the watchful supervision of his parents. But on Wednesday, the 1st of August, he decided to go out and play on his own. It was in the middle of the night when Erik snuck out of the front door. He wasn't supposed to go anywhere by himself, but there had been a number of occasions where he managed to get out of his house and onto the street without anybody noticing. Before he left, Erik picked up a toy gun from his pile of toys. In the early hours of the next morning, Erik's mother woke up and realized that he had left the house. She immediately woke up her husband and they called the police to report their son missing and to give them information about Erik's appearance and his mental capacity. As soon as she hung up the phone, the couple got dressed and headed out onto the streets to search for Erik. Due to Erik's condition, he couldn't walk too far, so they assumed that they would find him pretty quickly. But tragically, this wouldn't be the case. At around 4 a.m. the next morning, 3 police officers in the district were called to a disturbance inside a residential courtyard. Residents had reported that a man was waving a gun around and behaving in a threatening manner. When the officers arrived, they yelled at the man to put down his weapon. They received no reply, so they tried again, but still there was no response from the man. It was, of course, Erik. The police began firing, but they didn't just fire 1 or 2 shots. Round after round was fired into Erik. In total, more than 25 shots were fired towards Erik. Witnesses would later report that it was like a hailfire of bullets. At 5:45 a.m. on the Thursday morning, Erik was pronounced dead at the scene. Erik's shooting prompted an outcry in Sweden. Vigils and memorials were held all across the country, and many citizens called for a review on the use of deadly force in policing. Sweden has a population of around 10 million people, and in the past 20 years, on average, 1 person a year has been shot to death by the police. But in 2018, that number jumped to 6 people. Compare that to the UK, which has 6 times the population, and yet only 4 to 6 deaths per year as a result of a police shooting.
Man,
as the story picked up speed in the media.
I watched the video, which I don't know if I can start recording them, but it's the video, you know, police going to arrest people, police doing traffic stops and shit. I watched one video, man, a man got down, police, they pulled him over in traffic stop. Then, like a couple days after, they got the man to a house and shit. The man was scared, you feel me? Closed the door to the police and all that. The police had the most patience I ever seen. And they ain't rough him up when they put him in cuffs or nothing. They went through their word at the end of the day. I might fuck around and react to that. Even though I seen it already.
The officers involved in the shooting were reported to have justified their actions by saying that Erik was behaving in a threatening manner. They claimed that he was a danger to others and that he was non-responsive to their demands. But Eric's mother, Katerina, dismissed their statements. She claimed that the police would have been able to tell that Eric had Down syndrome, and that there was no way they could mistake him as a threat. She said, "He wasn't capable of being threatening. The only thing he could do was hug and kiss. He was the kindest and most peaceful teddy bear in the world."
Yes, that's right. The $6,400 health subsidies are real.
Officer, what the
Under this
fuck?
program, everybody who makes...
There was a problem with the statements taken from the police. Local media reports stated that the officers had shot Eric 3 times in the stomach, but the stories didn't match up with the evidence. Eric had undergone an autopsy after his death, and they found that he had been shot 3 times, but that 2 of the shots had hit Eric in the back. The location of the gunshot wounds is a significant factor in this case. If what the officers said was true, and the reason they shot Eric was because he was a threat, then surely they would have shot him from the front. To shoot him in the back means he was facing away from them at some point during the incident. In fact, one of these bullets in the back was the fatal wound, which means he was alive when he turned around.
Damn, man.
The evidence
That
pointed
shit
to the
lying.
fact that the officers had been misleading in their statements, which means there was doubt about whether the shooting
You
was
need to take their
justified at
badges
all.
away, man. That's all right.
Officials who reviewed the shooting agree that there were enough questions to justify taking a closer look, and the Swedish police authority opened an investigation. The officers involved were immediately stood down, whilst the circumstances surrounding the shooting were looked at more closely. Ultimately, the investigation concluded that the police were justified in opening fire on Eric. There was no way for them to know that the gun was not real, or that Eric's developmental challenges were a factor. Add to this the fact that their training dictated that they must neutralize the threat in the most effective way possible. In other words, shoot to kill. A Swedish officer told reporters,
R.I.P., man.
"We have learned to be offensive. Forward, forward until the perpetrator can no longer hurt others. If that means he needs to be shot to death, then so be it." It is also important to note the type of ammunition used by the Swedish police. The bullets expand on impact. This causes immediate and severe injuries, which are intended to stop the target instantly.
Hello?
The report also determined that the officers should have stopped shooting Eric when he turned away from them, as at this point he was only a minimal threat, and there was no reason to
One of these
continue
bullets?
firing at him.
To kill
If they
him.
had stopped at that point, Eric may not have even died. The author of the report commented, "I have decided that the police did not follow procedures that they should
One of
have
these
done,
just killed him, man.
and had they done so,
Oh my God,
they would
bro.
have realized that Eric, the victim, was not a threat." Because of this investigation, 2 of the officers involved in the shooting were later charged with negligence and misconduct, and a 3rd was charged with causing another person's death. Other officers present during the shooting were not charged. During the trial, the officers provided more context about what happened in the early hours
I might
of
do
that
another
day.
video for y'all.
They stated that when they first saw Eric, they believed that he was a wanted suspect who had violently attacked his partner and threatened to kill her. They didn't know that the actual suspect had already been arrested and was locked up, as the
How you not
information
know
about
that?
his arrest was not recorded
How
on the
you not
police
know that?
computers. So when they turned up and saw Eric holding what they believed to be a gun, they assumed it was him. Only moments before the shooting, the officers had crossed paths with Eric's dad, who was out looking for his son. They spoke briefly, but none of them realized that Eric was the reason the police had been called in the first place. The officers also disputed the evidence about the location and sequence of the shots which killed Eric. In their argument, they stated that there was no way to determine exactly what Eric's position was when he was shot, even though the bullets were in his back. They doubled down on their justification by saying that police make split-second decisions to protect the public, and that is
Who's
exactly
that?
what they were doing. In October of 2019, all 3 officers were acquitted of the charges against them, and they were allowed to return to their positions. Eric's family disagreed with the verdicts, but they accepted them. Eric's mother described her son as wonderful and the world's most loving person. She said, "We are completely destroyed. We are in shock. I can't even believe it's true. Why did they have to kill him? Why not just shoot him in the foot? I hope that we learn the lessons and look ahead to see what must change in order to safeguard all of our children and young people with developmental and intellectual disabilities throughout the community among us. The case of Eric is a deeply distressing one. Many have pushed for the reforms that prioritize de-escalation and crisis intervention techniques, especially when dealing with people who have disabilities. It is particularly tragic to consider that something as simple as a toy gun was enough to trigger the chain of events that led to his untimely death.
And then they trying to cover it up though, bro. They trying to cover that. They did cover it up. They beat the whole case, man. R.I.P. Eric. Shout out to the family, man. I know that shit hurt, man. That being said, give me your thumbs up. I wasn't gonna do a video. If I do, I think I'm finna do another video, but it's gonna be, y'all might get this bit tomorrow or the day after that. I don't know. I'll be forgetting. I got like 3 videos I ain't even posted yet. I got 3 videos that I've been reacting to 2 weeks ago. I ain't even posted. Them bitches just 40 minutes long. Edited everything. But give the video a thumbs up, like, and subscribe. See how much we're on next video, man. Let's ride. RP Eric. That's right, man.